Good morning. Oh, I need a microphone. Where's that microphone? Come here. What's up, everyone? Talking to the microphone right here. How we doing? Let me get this thing on so that you guys can hear me. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Home Built Workshop. Welcome to Wednesday Live. Hope all of you are doing awesome today. Right on, as we get settled in. Trying to make sure everything's working here. Right on, you guys are all here early. That's awesome. Sam's here. Sam, I like the idea of the hydration pack for the coffee. That's a great idea. And I'd always have coffee up with me. Robert's here. Robert says, howdy. Hope everyone's doing well. Just got my second cup. Right on. Let's see. Harry dude, what's up? What's going on? Oh, let's see. Let me get this thing situated here. Right on. How's everything? Everything look good? The audio, the video, all that stuff? Everything look all right? Awesome. Oh, Sam says, had a shepherd's pie? I haven't had shepherd's pie in forever. Oh, you know what? I got to bring up the preview so I can preview this whole thing here. Let's do that before we get settled. Completely settled, I guess. Live right there. Let's see. Nope, we don't want sound. Okay, there's that. Let me put that up here. That way I can make sure everything's alive and well. You know what's weird? Every time I look at this on the laptop screen here, and then I compare it to what I'm seeing on the live preview that all of you, I'm imagining, are seeing, the color is so much different. I think I talked about that already. I need to calibrate this monitor or something like that, because it looks a lot better on the live, the color. On here on the monitor, on the computer, it looks a little bit washed out. So I'm glad to see that in the live here, or on the actual live, that it's not all washed out. The colors look much better. But I may not have to worry about that too much, because the replacement for this poor old laptop is supposed to be here today. I don't know what time, but if they show up while we're doing this, I have to signature, so I might have to jump out and sign for it. So we'll just see what happens. Anyway, Mike Johnson's here. Mike, what's going on? Mike says, settled in. Right on. Settled in. Donna's here. Donna says, hey, coffee up. Coffee up, Donna. Right on. We're working on it. This is, let's see, I've had 2 regular cups, and this is my 3rd. So I don't know if that's like equivalent to 2 more. I'm not really sure. But we're trying to stay coffeeed up. Time Surfing. What's going on? Time Surfing says, morning. Good morning. Robert says, what's with the Dell computer behind you? Well, I'm going to get to that shortly, because that was a project that I finished this week. We'll get to that here in a little bit. Oh, Mike. Mike gave it away to the keen observer. Yes, Mike is correct. TrueNAS server. That is my project for this week, or that's going to be for next week's video, but I'm going to get to that shortly. Yeah, Sam Pack and Rick is here. Says, good morning, you look marvelous. Thank you, Rick. I don't know if I'm that marvelous, but Robert says, looking good here. Right on. Good to know. Good to know. Time Surfing Aliens has just popped in to give a like and a comment. Got to go grocery shopping. Have a great week, everyone. Right on. Well, Time Surfing, can I send you my list and you can deliver? You're going to do like, what is that, Instacart or whatever? I don't know what that is. DoorDash? You can deliver it. I got a couple things I need to pick up too, but anyway. Have fun at the store, and thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Hope you have an awesome week. Right on. So what's everybody been up to? What kind of projects? What's on your workbench? Let's get caught up. Let's see. This past weekend's video was the guitar show. Hit the thumbs up if you watched that video. And if you haven't, hit the thumbs up anyway, and then go watch the video. Yeah, that was our day at the show. What a fun day, except getting in trouble for volume, which really wasn't a big deal. I was a little bit dramatic about it, but they didn't really give us a hard time. He just came by several times and said, turn it down. I'm like, I can't turn it down much more. But anyway, yeah, it was it was cool. It was a fun week, just awesome. And go check out the video. Also, if you remember, I mentioned in that video, I did a quick interview with Brandon Tate, because he was making a video on his channel. He's a local Denver-based YouTuber, does music and a lot of that sort of stuff, and he covered the show last year. But this year he was there again, and I got to meet up with him and chat for a few minutes. So if you haven't seen the video where he covered the show, head on over to his channel. There's a link in the description for the guitar show video. But he posted his, I don't know if it was yesterday or Monday. I think it might have been Monday, but I watched it, I think, yesterday. He does a good job interviewing, meeting with some of the different people there, and just really cool. So I definitely recommend go and check out his video. You'll see little old me there hanging out. So, and you'll also, just like you could see in my video, you'll see where the event organizer came over and told us that we needed to turn the volume down. So it's all good. But yeah, go check it out. Check out my video covering it, and also go check out Brandon's video. Let's see. Sam says, careful you don't overdo the caffeine. Too much caffeine can cause cardiac arrest. We care, legend. Well, Sam, thank you. I appreciate the concern. I don't really go too crazy. I'm not drinking coffee all day long. I do get several doses in the morning, and really that's about it. And then I switch over to water. So I'm not too concerned, but thank you. I appreciate that. Robert says, when I was working the state agency, used to work for the main brand of the main brand of computer they used were Dell. So I've working on many of them. Right on. Harry Dude says, maybe a headphone amp for demos at the show. That's not a bad idea, actually. And I never thought about that. Because, well, in years past, we never really got in trouble. But maybe I was a little more, I don't know. Maybe we weren't as loud, but I surely didn't think it was that loud. But that is a really good idea, a headphone amp. I might have to look at that. Maybe I'd want two, so that I could listen to whatever the person's playing, and I don't know. But to me, there's something about, actually having a live amp, especially at something like that. Yes, I understand, we don't want to be cranking everything to 11 and then trying to demo it in front of all the other vendors. But I think it would be strange to me anyway, right? If you walked into a place like that with tons of guitars and you didn't hear anybody playing. It'd be like walking into your local guitar center and it was silent. Sometimes that would be a good thing, but there's just something about it, right? You want to hear the noise and the hustle and bustle of the atmosphere, I guess. I don't know, but that is a good idea, headphone amp, and then you definitely wouldn't get in trouble. I gotta ponder that a little bit. I like that. Sam says, have you noticed any difference in prices of lumber? Honestly, Sam, I haven't. But the last time I bought some was maybe a month, 2 months ago, and I thought the prices were just fine. So I haven't really noticed anything, at least in my area. But to be completely honest, I don't pay that much attention. I really don't. If from week to week, when I need something, I do shop for the best price at that time, but it's not something I follow, week in, week out, or, month to month kind of thing. I really don't. So I haven't noticed anything, but I'm curious to know if any of you have noticed anything. Have you seen any difference? I haven't. Jimmer's here, says, what's up? What's going on, man? How you doing? And Paul says, hello, everyone. Hope all is well with you guys. Yes. Right on. We're doing good, Paul. Sorry, I was trying to read like 4 comments at once. I don't know why my eyes wanted to read all of them at the same time. Harry Dude says, different volume level restrictions at different venues. Yes, I think that's what it was. Because this was a new venue, which I really liked this venue. But I do believe that was the reason. I think it was just different restrictions. Yeah. Time Servant says, daughter's not quite ready. Well, hey, you get to hang with us for a little bit longer. Right on. Robert says, the guy I saw playing the bass was pretty good, and the guitar sounded pretty good as well. Thanks, Robert. Are you talking about the guy at the end doing the cool slap thing? Yeah, it's my buddy Dave. He sat down to play it. There was a couple people played it. Actually, quite a lot of people played it. Just some normal bass line stuff towards the beginning of the video. But Dave got there a little bit later, and he sat down and just started, slap popping, which is really what I wanted to hear on that particular bass. And I stopped him. I'm like, whoa, hang on. Like, you got to stop right there. I don't know what I just told the camera to do with some hand gesture. Maybe I told it to stop following me. Yeah. But anyway, it sounded so cool. I stopped him, and I asked him if I could record it, while he was doing that, because that is exactly what I wanted to hear somebody play. And it was super awesome. Mike says, everybody doing Smoke on the Water or Stairway to Heaven? I actually heard both of those songs played at the show. There was a kid that came by, younger kid, I don't know, young teens, maybe. But he played the beginning of Smoke on the Water, and then someone else, maybe it was the same kid, I don't remember. Someone asked if they could play Stairway, which I've never been asked, but they didn't go in right to the beginning. They went right into the solo and played the Stairway solo, which that was kind of neat. But yeah, I heard both of them. Oh, let's see. Paul says, okay, what is the boards on cork that you have in the background? Boards on cork. Oh, that you're talking about that thingy? It does look like cork from here. Let me see if I can reach it. It's honestly, it's just I gotta take this mic back off. I gotta use the wireless one. Use the wireless one and make this thing follow me again. Honestly, it's just a piece of like particle board with some scraps glued to the bottom. And really, I just was using this. I haven't used this thing in years. I use it as a riser when I was spraying a finish. Like if I needed to spray just the top or just the back of a guitar. I forget which one I was working on at the time. It might have been the acoustic. I'd have to go back and look at the video. But for some reason, I don't remember exactly the details. I needed to spray one surface. And I wanted it up off the ground, but also laying flat. So I just threw this thing together from some scraps so I could set the guitar body on here. The edges would hang over all the way around, and that would allow me to spray it flat, but the finish, like I could spray the sides too, the finish would kind of drift around the edge, and I wouldn't get like a hard line. But that's all this was. Just a riser that I used for spraying at one point for finishing. Sam asks, how well would a bench-mounted power tool work on a rotating carousel for limited horizontal space? Sam, I've seen several videos like that where people have done exactly what you're talking about. And I think as long as you build the carousel, or get a carousel that's rugged enough, like a Lazy Susan for cabinets kind of thing, that doesn't wobble and flop around, or you build some other sort of contraption, it would work fine. It takes a little bit more depth, I think, because you got to have room for the tools to swing around. But I think it's a great use of space, and it's a great idea. Robert says, yeah, that one. Well, there you go. Paul says, my trip to Dalhart, Texas was uneventful as expected. Highlight of the trip was a lone tumbleweed. Only one? Oh, that's funny. Here dude says, Sweet Child, Thunderstruck, Enter Sandman, Music Shop, No-Go songs. Let's see. I heard somebody was playing a Metallica song. I don't remember which one it was. I don't think it was Enter Sandman. I think it was an older one. I didn't hear. Oh, I did hear Thunderstruck now that you mention it. But I don't remember Sweet Child of Mine. Paul says, yes, was curious. Thought it might have been a new jig. Cool use, though. Yeah, it's just a simple scrap thing that I probably didn't even need to keep, but it's been hanging there ever since. You know, I wanted the guitar. Again, I don't remember which one it was. I wanted it laying flat so that I could really lay the finish on, and it would lay out nice and flat. And then, so it would also wrap around the sides and not, you know, like if you sit it on a table, right, the finish is going to pool up on the side. So by lifting it up, it kind of just let it flow, or, you know, the overspray and stuff just kind of went around the edge, and it didn't have any hard edge to clean up. It worked pretty good. Let's see. Mike says, these are some of the bane of Guitar Center stores and the people working there. Yeah, I know. Or sometimes the ones that are really bad, like, I get it, right? You're going to go to a store, you want to try out the thing that you're looking to buy. But you get the people that are just go in there to crank everything up and just blast everything. And then the guy in the drum room who's just wailing away and just nonstop. Like, I get it. There's a difference between a demo and just playing. Anyway, that's enough of that. So, yes, this past weekend, guitar show video. This coming weekend is going to be the first aid, you know, preparedness video that I've been talking about. It's scheduled. The video is ready to go. So that's going to be coming up this weekend. I think I showed you, I got some more first aid stuff in here so that I feel, you know, a little bit better prepared for different things that hopefully never arise. But you never know, right? I mean, you just never know. I think some of us can attest to that. But anyway, so yeah, that's going to be coming out this weekend. And I just finished up yesterday editing the video and assembly and all that sort of stuff. This guy back here. Yes, that's a project video that's coming up, not this weekend, next weekend. The video is all uploaded, a little bit of fine-tuning to go. I finally took the time to repurpose an old computer to build a home server. It's something that I've sort of wanted to dip my toes in for quite a while. As I've been using USBs, USB drives for backups and that sort of thing. But they're full. They get full, and I just keep running out of space. So I finally decided, we had this old computer. It's been sitting around for a while. I found finally decided that it was time for it to become the candidate for the home server here at Home Built Workshop. So finally built one. It's up and running. I have no idea how to configure it yet. Well, when I say up and running, I mean it powers on, I can connect to it, and other than that, that's about it. I still have to get it all configured. I still have to get the final storage drives in there, because right now it just has some random ones that I've had on hand, just basically for, so I can learn. Yeah, I got to do a lot. I got to do a lot of learning yet. But yes, it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. Time Servant says, why does the video line up perfectly with the audio? Is something wrong? I don't know, Time Surfing. Wait, will this be better if I do something like this? And then I talk? Does that make you feel better? Let's see. Robert says, yeah, especially when the people are trying to play and they're not very good. Yeah. Paul says, so a new storage drive storage server. Sweet. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Extensive, what I would call extensive modifications to the inside of that in order to get a bunch of drives. Right off the shelf, this thing has space up here for 2 CD drives originally. That's how old it is. But if I can get that open, maybe it won't open anymore. Oh, there we go. There's no CD drives behind that anymore. I've 3D printed some adapters to convert those to hard drive storage. And then down here, is a hard drive cage from a completely different computer build from years ago that I have mounted here. Then there's a gap right in here where the graphics card sits, and then down below is another hard drive cage for SSDs, the smaller ones, 2.5, that were from yet another computer build that are hacked, hacked into place. Not really hacked, it's screwed down, but. So there's 2 SSDs and space for 6 regular hard drives in there, plus a graphics card. So I had to cut and remove hard drive trays, the original ones, because they were in the way and didn't fit, and had to reconfigure a bunch. But yeah, finally got everything up and running. It's loaded up with TrueNAS for the operating system, and yeah, that's about as far as I need to go. I'm gonna get I gotta get familiar with everything and learn how to do it. Sam says YouTube deleted a comment with YouTube in. YouTube deleted a comment? Really? I've never seen that happen. Interesting. Sam says, YouTube, how dare you not like yourself? Sam, that's weird though. I didn't know that they would do that. Delete comments. That's interesting. Paul says, how much hard drive space are you going to put in, and are you doing RAID or not? Good question, Paul. I'm currently, ultimately, once it's done, yes, I'm going to do RAID. I don't know what is it, RAID 5 or 6 or Z1 or Z2? I don't know. It seems like they've changed the names. Eventually, I want to have all 6 drive bays. That's going to be expensive. So I'm thinking I'll start out with 2 or 3 drives, and I'm just trying to figure out exactly what I want to go with for space. I'm thinking 12 to 16 terabyte drives each, maybe something like that. I don't know. All that's in there right now are just some random sized drives that I have. I don't have any RAID arrays set up. I only have it set up so that I can really play and learn, how this whole thing works. There's like a terabyte drive in there. There's a 320 gig drive in there. Just some random stuff, like I said, just so I can learn and experiment. Once I decide, or once I get a little more familiar, I do need to get actual hard drives ordered from somewhere and come up with some sort of setup. So yeah, I want to ultimately have a lot of space, and I don't want to have to buy again later in a year. Is basically kind of what I'm thinking. So that's why I'm thinking if I go with a larger drive, 16, maybe 18, I don't know. 20 would be cool, but that's going to be expensive. Then I can just build on and it'll last for a long time. I don't want to go with something smaller, 4, or maybe even 8. 8, I don't know. 8 might get by for a while. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just learning. Mike says, that's why I always had the salesperson play the instrument I was buying. That's a good idea. I've never heard about that. And Corey says you want to get the biggest storage for the computer you're working on. Yes. Yeah. I want to get a lot of space in here because I'm going to be storing video files, all kinds of stuff, and they can take up a lot of space. So yeah, I am totally open to suggestions for any of this stuff as I am learning and getting into it. But so far it's been really cool, and I'm just happy to have this thing up and running, and I can plug it in and connect to it, remotely, which is awesome. So that's like the first big win. Paul says, glad you chose TrueNAS and not a Windows software for it. Support open source. Yes, I wasn't going to go with a Windows for it. Actually, I was almost set on using Ubuntu Server with Casa OS kind of on top, but I wasn't finding a whole lot of options inside Casa OS for doing things like RAID. It seems like Casa OS is great for all your Docker applications, all kinds of stuff, but as far as file backup, I wasn't finding really in-depth options for that. So that's why I decided to go with TrueNAS. And if I need to, I could probably install Casa for all the other things, like in a Docker or something like that. I don't know. Still learning all this stuff. But it almost appears, though, as if TrueNAS has all of the Dockers that I'm going to need. Basically, what I want this for is number one, file backup. That's my number one priority. Number two, I want to set up a media server on this. So I'll have a folder in there for media, and I want to play around with that. Not that I have a giant media collection, but maybe in the future, maybe this will, I'll start growing that collection. But those are my first two uses, and outside of that, I'm really exploring all of the things that you can do. I don't even know the full capacity of what you can do when you have something like this set up, so just kind of learning. Sam says, I was trying to tell you about a video on this very website, but YouTube automatically deleted it because I typed YouTube. That's weird, Sam. I seriously had no idea that was even a thing. Robert says, one thing I like to do is get one of the higher capacity M3 drives and install it to an external case with USB. It offers quick response, small footprint, and no moving parts. Ooh, I never thought about M3, or you mean M2, I think, right? Or is there an M3 now? I wouldn't be surprised. That's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Use those for an external. Huh, yeah. Robert says, can be used to put setup files on to install operating systems. Oh, yeah, for the USB. Mike says, I have a 4-bay Synology with 16 terabyte drives. Works for me. Go with larger drives, 16 or higher. Mike, that's what I've been looking at. I've been looking at the 16 and 18s. The only reason I even slightly considered like a 12 or something smaller than 16 or 18 is honestly because of the price, right? When I think about 6 of these things at the price of an 18 or 20 that would be my ultimate one, right? Because it seems like when you go from 20 to 24, the price jumps significantly. But from going to 18 to 20, it doesn't seem as bad. So really, maybe I could just buy 2 20s to just get it set up, and then I could do, I could just mirror those for now. Then when I got a third one, I could change that RAID type to the striping with backup 5, 6, whatever it is. And maybe that's an option. Then I wouldn't have to get 3 drives right out the gate. Because I know that's going to be expensive. But yeah, the 4-bay Synology, that sounds awesome. And really, if I was going to buy an off-the-shelf solution, it would be a Synology. I would buy a 4. If I could justify it, a 6 would be the way I want to go. And that's why I made this with capacity for 6. I built this whole thing, and really the only thing that I had to buy up until now, right, it still doesn't have the hard drives, up until now was the SSD that I'm using for the boot drive. That's the only thing I bought, and it's only a 500 gig. It was like $54 or something like that. So I'm into this for not really anything until we have to buy the larger hard drives. But really, when you compare the price, like, I had to at least try this, and it was a fun project. I learned a lot of stuff, actually. And I'm nowhere near done because I got to figure out how to use this operating system. But yeah, the Synologies are awesome, and that's what I would have bought. And if this didn't work, or I broke it, fried the drive or something like that, I would have probably ordered a Synology. Sam says, I got an 18 terabyte storage drive. Wow, yeah, that's a large one. I think I have a 10. What's the other one? A 4, maybe? USB drives. And one thing I want to try to figure out too is to see if I can USB connect those drives to this and have that run through this server as well. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. I'm sure you probably can. So if anybody is a server expert, I'm probably going to have a lot of questions. I've been looking up a lot of stuff, specifically TrueNAS, because that's what's on here. Corey says, you can also have external drives where you could put your certain information on for certain project. Oh, there you go, Corey. Yeah, the USB drives like I was just talking about. Yeah, see, there's a whole lot. There's a lot of stuff that I want to do. But just having this base done is like the key to making all of that stuff happen. Without this thing right here, none of the rest of the stuff could really even be pulled off. And then looking into all of the Dockers that you can install on top of TrueNAS, wow, it's insane. Like all these different programs, yeah, it's just the sky's the limit, I think. Sam says the reverse peace sign is actually flipping off the British. Sam, my apologies. That's not my intent. Robert says they have M3 up to 2 terabyte. Interesting. I'm only familiar with the M2, not the M3. Wow. Sam says if the internet totally crashes, blame Jeff. Yes. Yeah. I may break the internet with this thing. Robert says after it's installed, the external case is about the size of a Pez dispenser. I can imagine that, Robert. I have in my desktop computer, I have two of the M2 drives. Sorry, Sam. And yeah, they're super tiny. Mike says I run Plex on a separate computer running Linux Mint to access my stored media on the NAS. I wouldn't mix the media server with your NAS. I use surplus Dells from university, 120 bucks. You're not the first person to tell me that. I've heard that from others too, that have been doing this sort of thing and have a much more advanced system than I. Use this for file serving. That's what I've been told, for backups and things. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, well, since I'm learning, maybe I should just try it, right? Just to understand, I can install, I was thinking Jellyfin, just installing Jellyfin and just getting it on the network and getting it working. And then I could always go have something else from there. Or I've also been told to run it in a VM instead of on the actual, the installation of, what am I using? TrueNAS. I don't know. That's the thing. There's a ton of different ways you could go. And I don't know which way is the best until I know which way is the best. So I'm relying on input from you guys and as well as a lot of others to understand what I really should do here. So Mike, thank you for that input. And like I said, you're not the first one to tell me that. But I think I might try it just to, like I said, just to learn and experiment with. I already know that this is not the final configuration because I need hard drives anyway, but just to play around. Sam says external drives are constantly powered and automatically turn on whenever you start up the computer system. Yeah, I've got a few. I can hear them power up though, so I don't think it's going all the time, at least the ones I have. Robert says, sorry, you're right. I goofed. It's an M2. Okay, fair enough. But you know what, though, Robert? I wasn't sure because this stuff changes so fast. I can't keep up with it all. Sam Packin says, you guys are making an old guy's head spin with all this computer talk. Rick, I apologize. It makes my head spin a bit, too, honestly. Like, I kind of like messing with the stuff, but it's not my main thing, right? You guys know that. I like to build things. I'd rather be making sawdust than plugging in and wrestling with computer stuff. But it's something that I needed to do, right? And it's the project that I'm working on. And I just got to jump in and learn things. As I would encourage anybody to do. Not necessarily with computer stuff, right? But whatever it is, right? If there's a project that you want to tackle, but you don't know how to do it, you don't really know much about it, there's no better way to learn than tackle it head on. And I believe that too. Not, like I said, not just computer stuff, but no matter what it is, I would challenge anyone to jump in and try to learn. And that's what this is for me. This is a challenge and a learning experience, right? And ultimately, I think it's going to make a huge difference and give me a lot of peace of mind in having everything stored and backed up. I'm going to be able to do it with this thing now. So, Rick, I don't mean to make everything confusing here, but, we always end up with a wide array of topics. How's your guitar build going along? You can give us an update. Mike says, Jeff, don't risk losing your videos combining the two, but it's all a learning experience. So here's my thought. Here's my thought, Mike. Right now, I have all my stuff stored on several internal drives on my desktop computer, right? So then it's backed up to an external USB. So all the video stuff at this exact moment in time is backed up, and I'm not worried about that. I'm kind of thinking before I migrate everything over to this, once I get the larger drives, this is kind of the time I'm thinking to jump in and start experimenting and learning how things work. I'm not risking at the moment losing anything, because let's say I screw the thing up horribly. Well, I'm not at the final configuration, so I'll just wipe it and reinstall TrueNAS and start from scratch, and I'm out literally nothing, right? Because all my stuff is already internal and backed up to a USB. It's not the ideal setup, but it's backed up, and I'm not relying solely on this. So I figure, I could install a whole bunch of stuff and screw everything up and just wipe it and start over. I don't think I'm out anything, but yet I've learned. So that's kind of how I'm approaching this. Hope that, if that makes sense. Once I have a better understanding of getting everything set up, then I'll get the larger drives, get those installed. Then I would probably be a little bit more conscious of what I'm doing. And I don't know if I would ever work or ever have this as my only source. I still think I would back this up, or at least certain drives, the drives for my videos. So what I would eventually have is like a folder for my personal documents, a folder for like personal family documents, a home built workshop folder, that sort of thing. So that's kind of how I'm envisioning it. You said, yes, I like to fix things as well. You are correct. Rick says, no apologies necessary. I get that. Right on, Rick. Harry Dude says, Mike, what if you separate media and file storage on different volumes? Oh, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's kind of what I was thinking. My understanding is the volume is a folder, right? You guys correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I'm learning all this, right? I'm not familiar with this other sort of Linux type stuff. I think it's a version of Linux. I don't know. I could be wrong on that too. But that's what I was thinking, Harry Dude. If I'm understanding what you're saying, I would have a volume for home built video things, a volume for my documents, a volume for media servers, or for the media server, and a volume for Haley's documents. Just have all these different things, not separate drives, but volumes. I think that is what I have in mind at the moment. Sam says, anyone seen a YouTube channel called Metdam? Some stuff he does is dangerous, but he also does things with wood too. Not always successful though. Interesting. Don't we? Isn't that how we all work? We do a lot of things with a lot of stuff, but it's not always successful. Rick says, I'm still listening. Sam says, never a good thing to be backed up. Paul, you're absolutely correct. Paul says, no risk, no reward. Actually, take it from an IT pro. Always have a safe backup. Don't risk data. Okay, so Paul, then maybe you can help me, and potentially others anyway, understand. Like, I totally understand what Mike was saying. Don't mix the two, because I've been told that by others too in the IT type world. Am I at risk setting it up the way I just explained? And then I would probably have a USB backup of all of that stuff. I don't know. That's what I envision. Let's see. Robert says, best practice is anything you're wanting to try. Be sure to keep, as always, have at least 2 backups of what you're wanting to keep. Yes, I live by that. Well, no, I don't. I read that as 2 copies. I don't have 2 backups. This will provide my second backup of everything, with the exception of offsite. And I think I saw that in a comment pop up, but let's get to that. Corey says, make sure you have enough cooling fans to keep the internal components cool when the computer is in use. Yes, good point, Corey, on this. So one thing that I made note of when I had this all apart was I had to take the whole front cover off and everything. There's space down here behind this plastic bezel. that I can mount some fans to blow straight across the hard drives. There's cooling fan, of course, on the CPU. There's an exhaust fan at the back, and there's cooling fans on the GPU. The only thing I don't have is a fan blowing in from this side to blow across the hard drives. But there is room that I could mount some in there. It would be really tight, and I'd have to cut a little bit of stuff out of this bezel behind here, but I can fit that. There's a vent right here that would draw air up in, and I think there's provisions. And I almost went ahead and added that now, but I wanted to see kind of how the temps ran. Harry Dude says volume is a drive or partition or RAID set. Oh, so it is a partition. I got you, not a folder. Okay. Paul says, okay, here's what you do for backup. Go find an old tape drive and buy a bunch of obsolete tapes. That's 350. Have fun trying to get it to work. Can I use an old 4-track tape recorder? That's the same thing, right? Raise your hand if you have a 4-track cassette recorder that you've tucked away because you have a lot of recordings on 4-track that you don't want to be unplayable someday. Me? I do. I saved my 4-track. The cassettes will probably disintegrate later on when I want to actually try to play them, but I still have one. Robert says, and keep the files on different media. Mike says, RAID 5 and off-site storage. This can be a whole college course. I'm going back to woodworking. I know, right? That's the problem. That's where I'm with Rick on this one. It makes my head spin, right? I actually start to get some paralysis by analysis. There's so many different ways you could do it. And for a guy that's just sort of diving into this sort of thing, paralysis by analysis. Like I just got to pick something and go for it. And then hope I have backups correct. Yeah. Sam says, you could always partition a storage drive. Yes. Paul says, no on-site backup is 100% fail-proof, but cost of cloud would be extremely expensive for your usage. That would, yeah, not to mention the amount of time it would take to get there. Yeah, there's zero chance that I'm going with cloud backup. I'm not paying anybody for cloud backup. If anything, I would buy something and like send it to a family member and have them just tuck it away, you know, sort of thing or something. Yeah, I am not doing cloud. Yeah, and the speed. Speaking of speed, I'm gonna steer off the road here for a minute. I think the team. Remember, I talked about they putting in this fiber. I believe. Well, that was a week ago, right? Yeah. The team is now so everywhere there's all these, you know, these nubs of cable sticking up out of the ground at intersections and stuff. I believe the team is now coming down the road, making whatever connections they need to make. So yesterday they were right up the road from me. So I think now, today, maybe tomorrow, I don't know how long it takes. They're going to be out here in front of the house making the connections. And that's what I've been waiting for because I need to talk to them and find out who's in charge of this thing and how do I get it to the house. So I'm hoping today I'll have more information on how or if I could even have the option to get some of this fiber internet here, because that would be incredible. And so I'm keeping an eye out. Yesterday I was doing some editing, and I noticed that they were up the road. So I kind of was always looking out the window trying to see if they were nearby. So hopefully they'll be coming down through today, if not today, tomorrow, and you know, I'll be able to talk to those guys and find out. Sam Packin says, I've heard there's water cooling available, but what do I know? Rick, you're absolutely right. There is water cooling. And it's kind of like almost like the radiator in your car, basically. It's like the exact same concept. So inside there's you have the processor, the main processor for the computer. And typically, and on this machine as well as my desktop, there's like a heat sink with a fan, a cooling fan on top. So that keeps it cool. But there's other options, like you said, water cooling, where you basically, on the processor is attached this little thing that has water circulating through it, and it goes to basically a radiator with a fan, just like your car. It's super cool. Sam says, does the Does the US and British have different terminology for computer parts? I don't know. Hard drive, processor, memory, or the RAM? I don't know. Sam, I think it's probably sort of standard. Paul says you could set up another server to back up to or use a RAID version that offers parity in case a drive in the RAID dies and use Proxmox to run it. That's exactly what my brother-in-law told me. He said Proxmox. Yeah, he's got like 4 boxes running at his house. One's a file server, one's the media server, one's I don't even know what all. But yeah, that's exactly what he told me. So yeah, which sounds cool, right? I guess. I still can't wrap my head around that exactly, but I get it. I get it. What I was thinking of in here, right? So the 6 hard drives, I was thinking of, I think I already mentioned it, setting up, eventually I would like to have, I think it's a RAID 6? 5. 5 at least uses 1 drive as parity, is my understanding, right? So if I had 3 drives, I would have the capacity of 2 and 1 as the backup. If I had 4 drives, I would have 3 drive capacity and 1 as a backup. But if I go to RAID 6, that uses 2 for parity. Then I have the capacity of 2 and backup of 2. If I have 5 drives, there's always 2 for backup. And that sounds ideal, but expensive. And then I don't see how you'd lose anything, right? If you had 2 drives for backup, I think you'd be okay, unless everything melted, but then you got a problem anyway. Robert says, many years ago, I had my brother, the old reel-to-reel deck, one tape that was about 8-inch diameter, I think maybe 5 or 6 music albums. Yeah, reel-to-reels. I have done some recording in years past on reel-to-reel. Mike says, that's replacement of hand-holding for customer connections, induction, and prayers. Corey says, that's where you can have the flash drives, where you can get the biggest terabyte ones, and you can store your important information on them. Yeah, see, there's so many ways you could do it. It's overload. It makes my brain... I'm really satisfied with myself that I got this thing up and running in its current configuration with the OS installed and everything. Sam says, make a unit with a 12-inch fans for super cooling. No, Sam, we're going to do one better. We're going to get a car radiator, and we're going to put an electric fan on that thing, and that's what we're going to use. Robert says, I've seen different liquid-cooled computers. They scare me because electrical power and liquid if a leak forms. Yes, that's my thought, Robert. It's always been my thought. What, you ever blown a radiator hose on your car? That makes a mess, and your motor's not really electronic. Could you imagine if you blow a leak in something like this? Mike says, the concept of RAID is not exactly backup as rebuilding the data on your drives. Yeah, I get that, Mike. It's not really backup. It's so you have that redundancy. That's it. Maybe parity or whatever I said is not the right word, but you have the redundancy. So that way if a drive goes out. But yeah, you're right. So you don't lose the data there, but it's not a backup. But if I have it stored elsewhere, that is the backup. There's so many ways to go. I don't know. I'm glad we could dive into that, except, Rick, you and I are probably both having headaches on this, but it is. I am excited about it because it's, like I said, it's something I needed to do. It's, I needed to have a better backup system, or place for storage system. Maybe that's the better word. So, but anyway, yeah, that's the that's gonna be the video coming out next weekend. And it was not without a few difficulties. I did have some trouble with the power supply. I got rid of the Dell power supply and installed a different one, a bigger one with more capacity, so for all the drives, and it wouldn't boot up, and I thought maybe I fried something, but there was some compatibility issue with the power supply that I had in there. So thankfully I had another power supply that I was able to use, and everything worked. So, but that's all in the video. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that, and looking forward to diving in a little bit more, and you know, just seeing some of the capacity and things that I can do with this. Let's see. Sam Packin says, my keen eye sees you're wearing a toque. Did you get the snow Alberta got? Not to change the subject. Rick, no, you're absolutely right. We've been, last weekend, we were down to like 30 degrees, and over was it Friday? I think our low was 16. 16 degrees in the morning when I got up. It was chilly. The last several days, like we're back up to, you know, the 60s. I don't know what that is. 15 to 18 Celsius. In that range. It's been actually really nice. But the mornings are still cool, and my lack of hair warrants me wearing a beanie. There's been quite a few days where once it warms up, I can go completely fine without the beanie, but it's not until we really get our warmer mornings that I'm comfortable without something to keep my head warm. We didn't get snow though. We did get a little bit of like that grapple, you know, the little like snowball snow. So far so good. We're still not out of the woods yet. We could still potentially get some snow. I hope we don't, but you just never know. But for now, yeah, beanie, at least for mornings. Sam says, yeah, you're an American, or you are American. Use a radiator and fan from a 778 quarry dumper. Yeah. I got a good buddy. Actually, my friend Mark, who was in the guitar show video, used to work at a mine where he drove those giant trucks. Those things are so cool. Those big giant cats. I don't know if it was a 778. I think it was like a 9 something cat. The big quarry trucks. Mike says, use punch cards, old computer input. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to like get a team of people punching the cards to keep track of all the data. Robert says, I saw a liquid-filled computer that was made inside a fish aquarium. Whole thing was filled with mineral oil, and the components were bare inside the oil. Were bare inside the oil? Is oil not conductive? Interesting. Harry Dude says, I like RAID 1 mirrored drives. Each drive is an exact copy of the others in the set. If one fails, it's replaced and rebuilt from the other. Yes. Yeah. That was my first thought, but I keep going back and forth on the best option. My initial thought was to do exactly like you said. So I've got room for 6 drives. My first thought was pairs, right? One pair for documents backup, one pair for home-built video, video stuff, and one pair for media server type setups. I don't know. Anybody think there's a problem with that? That was my initial plan. I don't know. Mike says, take care. Text you all next week. Right on, Mike. Well, hey, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for all the feedback on the server and things. So, yeah, I don't know which way I'm going to be going yet, but looking forward to diving into it. So, glad you stopped by. Hope you have an awesome week. Rick says, I can relate. My toque is within reach. Yeah, mine isn't, at least until mid to late May. I do remember several years ago, this was probably, or somewhere around the 20th of May, somewhere around there. It was past mid-May, but not quite at the end. It was the next to last day of school for my daughter, and we had a snow day. And it wasn't like a dusting of snow. It was like 10, 12 inches of snow. It was a lot. And it was a snow day, and then the next day was the last day of school. It was absolutely ridiculous. So you never know. We're not out of the woods till June, pretty much. Paul says, just use Haley to do the punch cards. Reminder of the hours you spent supporting her cookie selling. That's true, Paul. Yeah, I like that. Paul says, just realized RAID 1 is slow since the machine has to write the same data to each drive. True. But if I'm not working off of this, right, at this moment, I don't know if I'll work off this. I know that's an option, and I could totally do that until I have the network infrastructure to work off this, you know, with actually wired cables, not wireless. I don't see this as being something I work off of, but I do see it as something that I back up to. I don't know. The media server wouldn't be writing to it, it would be reading. So I don't see where that would be a slowdown. I don't know. Again, that's why I am open to any and all suggestions. I literally don't have this. I'm not going to ever claim to have this figured out, and I'm not going to say this is the way to do it because that's the right way. There's too many ways. Wow, everything just scrolled. I lost my spot. Sorry about that. Sam says, I need more RAM on my computer, but the problem is when I tried shoving them in, they kept biting and headbutting me. Yeah, you can't put a RAM. Corey says, of course, that's those big, pit mine dump trucks that hold about 200 tons. Yes, that's what he drove. Those big giant ones. Robert says, I did once have a computer case that had either 8-inch or 10-inch fan on the side. Is it this case? This case has a big provision on the side of it. Not this case, but my desktop has a provision for a pretty large fan, but I don't use it because that would be too loud. Mike says, anyone see a problem with that? Jeff lighting a fuse. Yes, I see a problem with that. Sorry, Mike. Harry Dude says, can more RAM in the machine help in caching the data for writing? Paul says, no, not enough to speed it up. Enough to warrant data in parity are separated into blocks and striped evenly across at least 3 disks, ensuring that no single disk is a bottleneck. Yeah, I have been told, that ideally, like for best performance, again, this is all information that I've been told, not because I'm an expert and I know this stuff to be fact, okay? So I just want to preface that. I've been told that ideally, for something like this, if you want the absolute best performance, fastest speeds you can get, right? So you'd have an SSD for the boot. You'd have an SSD for read cache and a separate SSD for write cache. And then that's what I've been told. I forgot where I was going with this, but I don't have that. I just have an SSD for boot. I do have a space in here. I could add another hard drive too. That maybe I could use that for read and write. I don't know. Again, I'm not getting too deep yet because I got to understand this. But yeah, I just don't know the best setup. But Harry Dude, I'm with you in that the pair, RAID 1, I think it is what I was initially planning on doing. That way I had backup. Because I don't see myself working off of this, I wasn't initially concerned with read-write speeds. Or write speeds, I guess I should say. I don't know. Francisco's here. Francisco says, hello, Jeff. How you doing? Francisco, we're doing good. How are you? Welcome. How's your day going? Right on. Thanks for tuning in. That's awesome. Sam says, would a jet engine be better? Yeah, it would. Paul says, sorry, I hate YouTube's only so many characters of stuff. I know. It's all good, Paul. I understand. Rick says, okay, folks, chat again next week. Headed down to the shop and do something I understand. Take care, everyone. Right on, Rick. Yeah, have a good one. Get out there and build some cool stuff. Let's see what you're working on. Build some guitars and stuff like that. That's awesome. You know us, though, around here, we mix things up. Got to mix it up with this thing and make my head spin. Robert says, "Send packing, best of luck. Enjoy." Right on. Yeah, thanks, Rick. Take care. Have a good one. Enjoy your time in the shop. Rick says, "Thanks, Robert." Right on. Paul says, "Got to go myself. Have a great week, everyone." Send packing says, "Ciao." Right on. Yeah, we're going to be wrapping this up here shortly, too. I got to haul this thing back in the house and get it connected back up and probably mess around with it a little bit before I get back to work out here. Right now, I am completely caught up on in-process projects. So what that means for me is I got to figure out what we're going to build next. I've got this week's video done. I've got next week's video done. I got to get to working on the next one. I got to figure out what that's going to be. And I was kind of thinking maybe cigar box guitar. I'm not sure yet. I don't know. We'll see. What do you guys want to see? Is there something you want to see me tackle? You're going to see me tackle this here next week. Sam says YouTube has 200 character spacing. Twitch has 300, including spaces. Oh, interesting. Paul says, "Make sure you have UPS and that backup eventually." Yes. Yep, I got it. That is on my list of things that I need to get. I have a backup on my desktop, or a UPS on my desktop. I'll probably use the same one for this. Actually, maybe I'll get a bigger one for my desktop and use that one for this. I don't know. I'll make sure I have one. I'm also thinking of picking up a dual port network card so I can have it connected to my router with 2 cables. Supposedly that makes it faster, which I could see that. Robert says, "Almost forgot to hit the thumbs up button." Just did it. So should everyone else. Well, thank you, Robert. Yes, everyone else should hit the thumbs up. Bam, bam. Hit the thumbs up. I'd hit the thumbs up, but I can't. Paul says, "Don't want it to shut down uncontrollably." No, we wouldn't want that. That'd be bad, especially if you're in the middle of something. Sam says, "UPS is a must." Definitely. Yes. There's so many things once you dive into this to really back up capacity and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's a lot. Uh-oh, we just froze here. Why did we freeze? I'm not sure. I just got the little thing. And why is it showing that I'm on Wi-Fi? I shouldn't be on Wi-Fi. It's plugged in. Oh, wait, we are. Anyway. I don't know. Anyway, Robert says, "Test the UPS to make sure it's working. To know how much time you have before it shuts off." True, true. I know the one on my desktop is not big enough. All I have plugged into it is the tower and 1 monitor, which is really all I need. But it lasts long enough to where I could shut down. But yeah, it would probably last a lot longer on this and get a bigger one for my desktop, because my desktop's got way more stuff running than this one. So Sam says, "Jeff broke YouTube." I'm working on breaking the internet, Sam. Wait till I start clicking buttons in this thing. Harry Dude says, "Later, folks. See you next week." Right on, Harry Dude. Yes, I got to get out of here as well. Get to work on some stuff. You guys, thank you for letting me, for allowing us to talk about computer server options and that sort of thing. I really, like I said, I am so new to this kind of stuff. I really appreciate and enjoy all of the different feedback and being able to brainstorm different options for things. Again, that's one of the things I love about doing these lives with all of you. It's never a set topic, and sometimes we just go down the bumpy road of whatever it is going on around here. And you guys are a wealth of information, and I appreciate being able to pick some of your brains and get some of that feedback. So again, thank you. And I am looking forward to tearing into this a little bit deeper and learning a lot more. And maybe I'll probably lose some information a time or two, but I hope not. But we'll see. And it's going to be a fun journey. So thank you guys for feedback and all of that stuff. So anyway, I hope all of you can get outside. Get outside as the weather's getting nice. Or Harry Dude, as the weather's cooling off. I hope it's not too cold for you. But anyway, I hope you guys have an awesome week. Get on your shops, build some stuff, play some music. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, I hope you get some time to do the things that bring you joy, right? We need more joy. That's something we don't talk about often. And maybe that's for another day, but Get out there, have some fun. Stay safe, stay well. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Sam says be safe. Says thanks for the fantastic stream. Harry Dude, says see you next week. I already read that. Anyway, take care. Robert says everyone stay safe, healthy. You guys, thank you so much. I'm going to get out of here myself. Hope you have a good one. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to tune in here. And we're going to see you next week. Hopefully next week we'll be streaming on the new laptop. Hopefully that'll make a difference in our stream here. So you guys take care. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. We'll catch you later. Take care, everyone. End stream. Your stream will stop. Yes. Later. Thank you.